Mike, we had Hurricane Matthew hit the East Coast this week, and Richard was on a few weeks ago, and we spoke about it then, but I think it's really important to talk about it now in the aftermath of the storm, and our prayers and everything go out to so many people that were impacted. We have a team member whose family's from St. Augustine, whose home was flooded, and I mean, there's just a lot of people that obviously have been impacted, and we were very fortunate again in Tampa Bay to have pretty negligible impact. Not being hit with much in terms of outages or damage, but it's just a matter of time before we do get hit with one. And a lot of people out there that are home buyers and home sellers, I think, are confused or misunderstood, and don't quite understand how insurance works. So I wanted to touch on it a little bit to remind people of what happens when a storm gets out on the horizon, with homeowners insurance.
Sure. Well, as we were talking about right before the show, a lot of people don't realize that when there's a storm, within 50 miles of the coast of Florida, anywhere around the state, the insurance companies will all restrict activity and not allow any quoting of insurance, or they minimize quoting, and they absolutely restrict binding of insurance policies while that storm is on the horizon. And that's what happened last week. And the last couple of days, we spent quite a bit of time, rather than quoting new insurance policies and binding policies for those people who wanted to close on their new homes, we spent time on the phone with clients who were calling concerned about that sort of thing and concerned about the type of insurance that they had. And as you know, flood insurance is a key, it's a key thing in the whole insurance picture, because a lot of people are not aware that homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage. Flood damage is completely separate, and so people call and say, am I covered if my home gets flooded? And they don't even know, or they're not sure of what flood means. A lot of people think that when a pipe breaks in the wall and floods the floor, that's flood, and it's not. That's covered by your homeowner.
Sure.
So flood is inundation.
But I think, if you look at this storm, for example, you look at what happened in St. Augustine, if somebody's home didn't get damaged by wind, but the storm surge caused a flood, and they don't have flood insurance, they're in trouble.
That's correct.
And so flood insurance is what covers water, like a surge, high tide, all that kind of stuff, water penetrating the home. If it's wind related, that's the hurricane portion of your homeowner's coverage. If the house actually gets flooded, that's
correct. The key word to keep in mind is inundation. If the home is inundated with water, then your flood insurance kicks in. But as you said, if the roof blows off and the rain goes into the home, that's homeowners insurance. You're absolutely right.
Well, we had a couple of situations, and we've had them in the past, and we always make sure to advise people to do the best we can to let them know. But they're, for example, they've got a closing set. A few days out, they hadn't bound their insurance. They're packing up their moving truck, and guess what? A storm comes in. You're stuck. There's nothing that's going to change that. So if you're someone, if you're buying or selling a home during hurricane season, or there's a storm out on the horizon, even a tropical storm. This does not have to be a hurricane. This can be a stage 1 lowest grade tropical storm, and it's going to be the same result. So you're going to get delayed if you didn't buy any insurance, and you certainly don't want to buy any insurance too early, because what if the closing doesn't happen for some inspection reason or appraisal issue? Right. So there's proper timing. It's one of the reasons why at our company, I just naturally believe that salespeople aren't always the greatest at details. So at our company, the way that we manage the process when someone goes under contract, because today, compared to 10 or 15 years ago, there's so many more extra steps and boxes to check when you're buying a home than there used to be, and processes and regulation, and so we have actually a transaction manager who has a real estate license, is an employee of our company that sits in the office all day, Monday through Friday, sometimes weekends, and they're not out showing homes, they're not meeting with customers. Their whole job is to go through and manage all those steps and processes from the point in which the home goes under contract until it closes. And they do that because of situations like this where, someone might miss reminding someone or pushing them to buy their insurance, and so we have reminder emails, and obviously we can't go buy any insurance. The customer still has to do that, and there's sometimes they don't, and it is what it is. But ultimately, if you don't, it could delay your closing. It could cause you some frustrations. So if you're buying or selling a home and there's even a mention of a storm out in the ocean, then either bind it or just be prepared that whatever closing date's on your contract is relevant to actually being able to get insurance.
That's right. We have a couple of clients that called us ahead of time, and they were concerned about just that because their closings were scheduled for either Thursday or Friday of last week. And we were able to take all the information everything is sitting on my desk for these two clients, ready to go on Monday, because I explained to them that hopefully the binding restrictions will be lifted, and with that storm so far away now, they
Yeah.
will be. So,
Yeah.
boom.
And I think, and that's the thing I always tell people, is just be prepared for some delays. You know, I always tell people that the closing date listed in the contract is what I call a target or a goal. The buyer and seller are not the only people that have control over executing that date. There's a lot of terms in that contract that allow for delays and extensions. Force majeure is one of them, which is a storm, you know, that happens. But the insurance companies obviously don't want to bind insurance with a storm out on the horizon, because they don't want to take on the risk of a policy that may not be theirs to deal with. They would much rather not do that, wait for the storm to pass, and let the current insurer deal with it. And it's just logical business. So, you know, but we've had people get irate. We've had, you know, seller, you know, we represent a buyer and we have a seller that's just blowing up at us, and it's like, look, you can't like, this is just this stuff happens in real estate. It's complicated. There's a lot of processes, and you know, but definitely binding your insurance early. But I think another really important reminder of this is people out there that are not required to have flood insurance. So if you have a mortgage, and your lender does not require you to have flood insurance, it's optional for you to have it or not. And if you don't have a lender, and you pay, you know, or you paid cash for your home, same thing, it's optional, it's up to you.
Right.
You know, if you're someone whose home value or home's values are really important to your net worth, to your future, to your retirement, you know, a few $100s a year for homeowners insurance goes a long way towards helping you in a situation like what people in St. Augustine are dealing with, because a lot of those people whose homes are flooded do not have flood insurance. And in Louisiana, same thing, a lot of people didn't have flood insurance, and FEMA only gives you, I think I want to say like 30 grand or something. FEMA's emergency stuff gives you some money to replace some things, but it is not replacing your house.
Right, and you know, flood insurance for homes that are not in an active flood zone is not expensive, as you mentioned.
Very inexpensive.
It's about, you know, probably averages around $450 a year. So what I always advise my clients when I speak with them is, even though the flood insurance may not be required, they need to take into account, you know, is $450 a year material to them? Is it going to change their life? Because if it's not, if they can afford to spend it, you're better to have that flood insurance if you need it, because if you don't have it, it could mean your entire home. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think so too, and I would tell you, you know, and it can be even cheaper. I mean, it depends on how big the home is. You know, I mean, you got a smaller home, it's going to be cheaper, and if you're really close, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit more expensive if you're on the border or close to a flood zone, but not quite. So it varies based on, you know, I'm sure it's based on elevation, just like, you know, anything else related to flood insurance. But a great reminder for people out there to kind of, you know, do a checkup on their insurance. Look at your insurance policy. I think as we come close to the end of the year, it's a recommendation you guys make every year to say, hey, look, you know, start thinking about checking up your policies for next year.
And if you're not sure what flood zone your home is in, give us a call and we'll look it up. It's very easy. It only takes 2 minutes, and you'll know.
Yeah, you'll know. So I got Mike Mark with Artisan Insurance Group with us, talking about homeowners insurance and flood insurance and recommendations based on Hurricane Matthew that hit the East Coast, unfortunately missed Tampa Bay.